As I'm writing this, it just dawned on me I made it an unintentional yearly tradition to review Assassin's Creed games for the past 3 years now. As fun as it has been to make them like this, I think it's time for me to pick up the pace. At the very least, finish this year with both the Ezio trilogy and the Desmond saga. But as they say, we gotta move one step at a time. Everywhere I looked online, people have called Assassin's Creed 2 as the peak of the series, with Brotherhood either being on par with, if not even better. Even today, with all the cynicism thrown at Ubisoft, I keep seeing people looking back fondly at this particular era. So how well does it hold up in 2023? That's what we're here to find out. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood puts us back where we last left off, right after the end of the second game. After Ezio successfully completed his quest for revenge and secured the Apple of Eden from the Brotherhood, he is ready to stay home in the Villa Auditore and enjoy the rest of his days. But fate has other plans for him. Cesare Borgia, a Templar member and son of Rodrigo Borgia, the main villain of the second game, has been gaining influence all over Italy and decided to wipe out the assassins before they get a chance to ruin his plans. Unluckily for him, this attack on the villa makes Ezio move over to Rome and slowly chip away at all the Templar influence, both in retaliation for the attack and to recover the stolen Apple of Eden. And that about covers the basics. Now, because this game came out a year after 2, and because this is a trend that is going to go well for nearly a decade, I'm not going to be judging these games by the basic gameplay systems, as they will largely remain the same. But rather, I am going to look at how each game stands on their own, and what do they bring to the table. In the case of Brotherhood, Rome is being controlled by the influence of the Borgia family. They have every authority in their pocket, and they have been running the city with an iron fist. So the main idea this time around is taking over the city little by little, and we do that in a way I certainly didn't see coming. One of the main complaints against Ubisoft Towers is how they don't really offer much aside from revealing the map and points of interest. Brotherhood replaces nearly all the towers with Borgia Towers. The twist here is simply climbing them is not enough. They are bases of operations for the Templars, and as such, they mark hostile territory for you, making story missions harder if the objective happens to be near the towers. So the way to deal with them is by killing the commander of the area. I'd love to say you track him down, but the game does that for you. The challenge is these captains are often surrounded by a group of soldiers, and if they take enough damage, they will run away to hide in the towers until the next guard shift, so you have to be fast in dealing with them. Only when the commander is dead, then you get to climb the tower, not just for unlocking the viewpoint, but also to destroy the tower itself. This liberates the territory, reduces Templar presence almost entirely, and it also unlocks the second layer to this little faction warfare, the economy. Businesses that you frequented in the second game are now either run down and for sale, or have been under Templar control. Once you get rid of them, you can buy those businesses and use their services. And you don't need them if you wish to upgrade your weapons and your health. Plus, the more businesses and property you buy, the bigger your income becomes, which for this game is something you do want if you don't want to find yourself underpowered and outclassed. Obviously, this is not a perfect system. You can ignore most of the towers and just stick to the few businesses you do get, but the entire gameplay cycle for liberating territory, buying properties, and then reaping the rewards that do help me through the main story made the entire process fun. Another main complaint people have with side content in Ubisoft games is how most of it comes off as filler, or not really serving an in-universe purpose. For this game, however, this brings an actual sense of progression. Everything you do in this game is actually tied to how Ezio is not only taking control of Rome under Cesare's nose, but also he is cementing himself as a capable leader by restoring parts of the city and improving the living conditions while under control for the Brotherhood. But of course, this is only what is available at surface level. One thing I really came to appreciate is the game doesn't overwhelm you with side content in the early hours. One thing the level design makes clear is that it wants you to advance the story before you even think of exploring beyond what is currently available. And I really like that, because the map does get bigger as you make progress, with new open world activities and mission types becoming available. In order to do this, however, Ezio needs to have a Brotherhood established in Rome. All the factions you could pay off to help you in the second game, you have to ensure their own influence and headquarters here. The courtesans, the thieves guilds, and the mercenary are all tied to what happens in Rome's society and military, and it is by helping them and taking over the city that you get to the next layer of the gameplay loop: the recruits. As you advance through the story, Ezio's influence on the city begins to rub off on its people. Tied to the Borgia Towers, every time you liberate a territory, there is a chance you are going to run into a civilian trying to take the fight to the Templars.
The liberation of Roma has begun.
Your cause is also mine. My life is at your service.
Every civilian you save can be recruited into the Brotherhood, and this in turn unlocks the assassin missions, a little minigame where you can send your recruits to other cities to do jobs for you and increase both their skills and your income. Think of them as the Peace Walkers or Metal Gear Solid 5's Outer Ops. You have to take the skills of your recruits into account and their chances to succeed, with harder missions yielding bigger rewards, and that's not all. Your recruits can also help you out in the field, taking down guards or objectives for you from a distance in case you are in trouble. And if you max out your army, you can rain death upon your enemies while also maintaining stealth. This is amazing because it is adding yet another layer to how Ezio keeps growing with the Brotherhood, and in also showing how his own actions are having an effect on the people, cementing the 20 years of growth he experienced in the second game. So the general gameplay loop for you in this open world is one of economic, political, and military warfare. I actually did not feel burned out by the time I was done taking over the towers or doing some of the side content, considering I have quite a mileage with Ubisoft open worlds right now. That speaks well of this game. But that, of course, is the open world itself. What about the rest? After all, the game is called Assassin's Creed, so where are all the assassinations? I'll say, after how amazing the assassinations were in the second game, the ones in Brotherhood are a bit of a letdown. Let me explain. When Cesare gets introduced at the start of the game, he is surrounded by multiple interesting looking Templars, including his siblings. This made me think we were going to be facing an ensemble of interesting and colorful villains. The sad reality, however, is you only do a handful of proper assassinations in the story. And by that, I mean you can count on one hand the number of characters that get to have one last conversation with Ezio before passing on. The rest are scattered around the open world in the form of Templar agent missions. While there are plenty of them and there is a lot of fun tracking you get to do before reaching your targets, I say they are a letdown because once you kill them, all we get from Ezio is hoping they requiescat in pace. They simply die without a word. I get this game is smaller compared to the second game and that it was quickly made in a year, but I really was hoping to see more fun stuff with assassinations. It doesn't help the jankiness that was in the second game carry it over, and it made one of the new mechanics ruin some of the fun. But more on that in a moment. One of the best things this game does is add cohesion. Like I said, everything you do is actually influencing how much of the city you control, and you even get to see Ezio show off how far he has come. Both the recruits and the Templar agent missions show Ezio witnessing how the Templars are oppressing innocent people and making them suffer, with him hearing them out and even offering a helping hand.
From the castle came with guards and arrested us. He scared me.
They are scary. But you are very brave.
This shows his more human side and cements him as a hero. It is a small detail, but it is the kind of thing that makes it all the more fun when you embark on those missions. And those feats of heroism get expanded a great deal on other areas too. Two of my favorite side missions were the Romulus Lairs and the Da Vinci missions. The Romulus Lairs are an expansion of the Assassin Tombs. The followers of Romulus are a Templar-controlled cult that stole the best armor in the game and are trying to engage in revisionist history to make it seem like it was all in their favor and also keep people under control. This translates into some extremely fun underground adventures. They are a major improvement over the Assassin Tombs in that they are more varied. Sometimes you get a fun obstacle course through some ruins, some other times you get an intense combat gauntlet against a bunch of furries, and when you do find those, there's always a bit of fun story to be told and more mysteries to be revealed about them. The Da Vinci missions, on the other hand, add a little storyline where Ezio gets to destroy multiple war machines made by Leonardo under orders from the Templars. They embody a lot of the stuff I enjoy from the formula. You get to gather intel on the machines, then you infiltrate the territory they are located at, always cautious and using the environment and your own skills to your advantage. Then you destroy the blueprints and hijack the machines. And the game rewards your patience by letting you let loose, laying waste to your enemies with the very machines they intended to use against you in some of the best set pieces I have seen in the series so far. The best part is the level designs for each mission is unique, and it does invite you to mess around however you like. Of all the games in the series so far, I'd say this is the one that has come closer to make it feel like I am playing a Renaissance-themed Metal Gear. Except the assassins hide in plain sight, and instead of mecha robots, we get rudimentary machines that were ahead of their time. But of course, not everything is great. This is still the best entry I played so far, but there is still some junk that shows how maybe releasing yearly sequence for games like this was not a good idea. For instance, while the combat has improved a lot, it's still not made for large crowds of enemies. The targeting system can get confused in the bigger battles, and sometimes Ezio can be surrounded and not go into battle mode unless you target someone yourself. This wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the fact the game has many challenges. Don't get me wrong, they are nice, and the fact that you can replay any missions with your full gear makes for some amazing new game plus. The problem is some of these mini challenges are a lot harder than they should be because of the game's own design. Doing specific things like sending your recruits or killing an enemy at a specific spot are nice, but then the game asks you to complete levels without getting detected or taking any amount of damage, if at all. You could argue you can just restart and try again. The problem is for something like this, manual checkpoints are non-existent. And let me remind you, some of these missions can go on for entire minutes at a time, so making one single mistake can cost you the entire run. Worse yet, if you die and reload a checkpoint, the challenge won't reset. Yes, I know it's a matter of patience, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating, especially if you get the speedrun challenges. There are other grievances I have, but I'm mostly willing to let them slide because I can chalk them off to the game's own jank.
Faster! Don't lose! Warning to any therapeutic use of the hot springs of Verentino. A reasonable...
NANI?!
And also they weren't egregious enough to mention, except maybe the landmarks. They are the most expensive properties in the game. Buying them does absolutely nothing to the buildings, and the income they produce is a joke compared to the other properties. I'm gonna guess they exist to simply be a money sink for the post-game, since your income only ever goes up. What also goes up, however, is the quality of the writing. I said in the review of the second game that Ezio's story there was a coming-of-age journey, where he had to grow up and be mentored by people who eventually became his found family. This means Brotherhood is a more traditional tale of good versus evil. For this game, some of Ezio's previous mentors return, and it feels amazing watching them go from treating him as a student to having him stand with them at meetings like equals. Their relationship having evolved into that of, well, a brotherhood. They respect and trust each other mutually, and even when internal conflict and potential betrayals arise, everyone still maintains a deep sense of respect for each other. Ezio himself even changes from young apprentice to a full-fledged leader. This is the game where we get to see him start from zero and then rise from the ashes, take down his enemies, and become the Grand Master of his very own assassin clan. This is the game where Ezio consolidates himself as a legend and becomes a feared name among Templars, and watching just how far he has come feels amazing. I wish I could say the same for the modern story. While the stakes are now finally made clear and there is still a mystery to unfold, I still have a hard time caring for the modern cast. The game tries encouraging me to leave the animals between chapters to talk to them, but after a while, they run out of things to say. Worse yet, I can free roam for a bit in the modern villa, but other than some small Easter eggs and an awesome sequence at the end, it's still very underwhelming. And it sucks because 3 games in, I actually want to like the modern story. I am invested to see where it goes, but it all still gets heavily overshadowed by how great the past segments are. We'll have to see if Revelations improves on it, but I am not expecting much. Despite all of that, its age and some redundant content I didn't bother mentioning, I think Brotherhood right now is my favorite entry in the series. I can see why so many people loved this franchise back then, and why they were also eager to see what future installments will do. I know I still got one more Ezio game to go through, But right now, if I was to make a recommendation, is to please play the entire trilogy. It helps a lot that this is the most focused Assassin's Creed gets, and where you see a more cohesive and ongoing story. I don't know where things are going to go once I beat Revelations, but this is a journey I've been more than happy to take so far. It's true Ubisoft today has a really bad rap, and some of their bad design habits were showing up as early as these games. But there is a certain charm I'm noticing on them that I can't help but love. Then again, I'm only 3 games in. My opinion may change for the better or for the worse, but as they say, we'll figure it out when we cross that bridge.